Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Raider Roster Report. This is Raider Sparks coming at you with another video today. We're going to talk free agency and kind of give my grade on where the Raiders are right now. So please, everybody, like, share, subscribe to the video, and definitely comment. I really do these videos to hear what Raider Nation has to say. So I look forward to all the comments. Just kind of get your guys' take on where I think the Raiders roster is right now, and we'll kind of go from there. So my grade right now is for the free agency is a C+, and I'll give you the reasons why. If you've watched some of my other videos, I went through a whole list of things that I think the Raiders needed to do during the free agency period. And it's been, what, a week and a half now, almost 2 weeks into free agency. So I kind of wanted to wait a little bit to see kind of how all shakes out. But really getting excited, though, for my favorite part of the preseason or the off season is the draft. So starting to get into a lot more draft content. Just wanted to see how the team's shaping up before we start talking too much about prospects and things like that. But again, please like, share, subscribe, and definitely comment. Want to hear what you have to say. So currently right now we have 72 players on the roster, and depending on where you look, over the cap has it at only 7.2 million in space available, but Spotrac has 15.8. And a lot of all of that is the difference is Jimmy Garoppolo, and there's 4 players that aren't entered yet. So that'll change. Like Hooper, I think, would probably change the number, and Duke Shelley would also change the number. The other 2 guys, I don't think will have Keelan Cole, and I'm not sure, I forget who the other one is, but I don't think, John Jenkins. So that may move it a little bit, but not too much. But other than that, it's kind of where we're at. Just they have Jimmy G's contract in a lot differently, but I gave basically 8 targets for the Raiders to hit, and in my opinion, they made slightly 6 of 8, which is about 78%. So that's a C+. And it's kind of where I think the free agency is a slightly underwhelming free agency, but they're adding depth and versatility, which are 2 words that I'm a little getting tired of. I don't know about the rest of the Raider fans. I want playmakers. You know, I kind of did a whole video about what we need to improve the defense, and it really is about playmakers. So I don't think we added too many playmakers, but we'll see. Definitely the depth has gotten better. So let's start with the first one. It was a negative for me. Jimmy Garoppolo signing. I said, that's sort of like the 7th or 8th best option for the team at this point. But if they do go for it, be under 30 million for the 1 year to have an out and only be into him for about 30 million, really because of the injury concerns I have with him. And I think everybody in Raider Nation's still has those injury concerns. So, and really the cap wise, they did that, but really the out that they gave him, it's really about a $33 million or so contract if you look at it. So even though the cap number is under that 30, which is good, the dead money that they are incurring in total would be around 33 million for just 1 year if we did that. So kind of a negative there for me. I do like the contract. The cap number is great, but I just wanted to be able to get out for under 30 if possible. So that's sort of the one negative. And then signed 2 to 5 top 100 defensive free agents, and we signed none of them. So that's, to me, a negative. We did get 2 in the top 100 with Myers and Garoppolo, but both on offense. And so those are the 2 sort of negatives I had for the Raiders. I just felt like, I'll talk about depth for a second. I think depth comes into play, and I'm kind of getting sick of that word, is depth comes into play when you have some stars or playmakers around. And on defense, you need one at each level. We have Max, which is cool, but on the defensive interior, we don't have one. And anywhere else on the defense, we don't have one. So if you would have picked up 2 and then get hopefully 2 more in the draft, then all of a sudden at all levels of the defense, we'd have playmakers. Then depth really becomes a good thing, right? Well, then all of a sudden now we have somebody in each level, a linebacker, a stud linebacker, stud interior defender, a cornerback or safety. And then we get that draft hits, and then all of a sudden we're really looking good, but we didn't do that in free agency as of yet. We still might. And I know they're probably really confident in the players they brought in, but I think a lot of them are depth moves. And so that's kind of where I'm at with the C+, because the depth's good. So let's go to number 3. And really, I talked about, sorry about that. staying in budget, don't restructure a bunch of guys. They've done that so far, which is great. I think that's a really smart thing to do. So that's one positive. Sign guys for more than 1 year that are under 30 years old, so get some longer term contracts so we can build that team, that continuity. And they got Epps, Spillane, Tillery, and Faison. So really all levels of the defense, you're looking at a safety, a cornerback, a linebacker, and an interior defensive player. And then obviously we have Max. So if they think those are the stars of the future, then cool, I'm glad we signed them. So I give them a positive for at least doing that part. I thought that was good. I re-signed Illuminor. I thought that was key for the offensive line, just so we don't have to get pressured in the draft. Because he's a good tackle or guard, whatever we want. And so, and not to have to rely to get two starting offensive linemen in the draft. Maybe we just need one starting offensive lineman, or maybe none. I mean, our offensive line, I feel it's better than a lot of Raider Nation, I think. They played well last year. They had the leading rusher in the league. You can't be a bad offensive line if you have the leading rusher, right? So I'm not as concerned with the line. There are some good line prospects, especially late in the draft. So that signing of Illuminor I thought was key for us. And then add depth at all levels of the defense, which they've done. I'll be fair on that, so I kind of gave them a positive grade on that. And then I threw a bonus in there for Jacoby Myers because really, I know it's on the offensive side of the ball, but that was a great trade. I mean, even if you look at the number-wise, I mean, Waller and him, I mean, he's probably slightly better than Waller even. He's more available than Waller, and we got a third-round pick. So, I mean, that's got to be a win. I know a lot of Raider Nation was maybe bummed that Waller's isn't there. I was excited for that prospect. So, but I have no problem with that move, especially we brought in some, you know, on paper, some good tight ends. We'll see how they do, but it's a strong draft, so I think that's totally fine. And then pick up a real linebacker. And I think Spillane is truly a real linebacker because all we had was basically converted safeties on the playing linebacker for us. So to do that, so those are the 8 factors I did to grade the free agency. So I think they hit on 6-8, which is 78% if you're going to grade it on a scale like that. And so I just kind of feel like that's how the free agency was. It's slightly underwhelming. So C+, I think, is a good grade for that. Some concerns for me though is the spend. Like last year on defense, as a team, we were 31st in spend, and we saw what the defense looked like. Right now, I believe Spot Check has us at 28th in the league. So not much better. We saved all that money from going from Carr to Garoppolo, but haven't invested it to this point on our defense as heavily as I was hoping we would do. So that's sort of my take. Let me know your take, Raider Nation, on how you think free agency is going, what kind of grade you might give it, and you know, and who maybe you'd like to sign or who you'd like to see signed. So I definitely think that some big changes are going to be coming to the Raiders, especially with Raiders that weren't from this regime. You know, Gruden, Mayock, Raiders, current Raiders. You know, you look at the pickups they made, it's going to be tough. I mean, I think the guys that are going to make the team, if you just look at the contracts, are the guys that, you know, with the money that's too big to cut, really. The guys that they've just recently signed, I think they signed for a reason and on purpose. Some of those guys are practice squad guys, but a lot of those guys are going to be on our 53-man roster. It's going to be tough for the other guys like a Meek Robertson. You know, we signed Duke Snyder. So if you look at it, a 5'8" and a 5'9" cornerback. Are we going to have 2 5'8", 5'9" cornerbacks? Probably not. Duke Shelley's probably going to have double the money that a Meek's going to have. So we kept 5 cornerbacks last year. So I think it's going to be tough for Meek to make the roster. Faison and Hobbs are pretty similar size-wise, athletically similar. And so Hobbs is not a guarantee. And we gave Faison double his money for 2 years. So that might tell you something right there. And then David Long, and then Tyler Hall, Sam Webb. They're all kind of the 5'11" to 6 foot type guys. So we signed David Long for a reason, and again, double the money almost, or guaranteed money of what those guys are bringing in. So Tyler Hall, I think, has one of the better shots to make the team. But you look at it from that perspective, only 5 guys, and we're going to draft 1, maybe 2 cornerbacks. So I think it's going to be tough for those guys Hobbs probably will make the roster, but there's no more, he's a slot cornerback or he's an outside cornerback. They're going to go with matchups. And so that's the reason you're seeing, I believe that's the reason you're seeing different heights. So 5'8", 5'9" cornerback, kind of mid-range 5'11", that's somewhat bigger, that's 6'1", 6 foot, 6'2" with face-on cornerback. And don't be surprised if we bring in an even bigger cornerback in the draft, like a 6'3", 6'4" guy, like Julius Brents from Kansas State, or Cory Trice, somebody that could play. Both those guys, I would make them safeties or just matchups, right? So even with our safety group, I don't even think we're necessarily going with true safeties. We're going with matchups. So you might have 3 safeties on the field. And that's another thing too, like Epps, a lot of people are saying he's a strong safety. I read the tape, did it. I kind of agreed with them. He's more of a free safety to me. And Mooring, we don't know. I mean, he played a lot with Abram at free safety. He didn't do much. He played a lot after Abram at strong safety, and it wasn't really that much better. So it might be Chubb, because Juwan Johnson, we just brought him in, and he's more strong safety-ish than he is in coverage. And then, so, I mean, you kind of start to look, and maybe we draft somebody, and I think we draft sort of like that's what I mean, you add like Julius Brents or Cory Trice. I know they're cornerbacks, but defensive backs, basically, those guys can guard the tight end. You know, they have great length. Cory Trice, if you haven't heard from him with Purdue, no buzz around it, but he had a phenomenal pro day. He's 6'3", and he had a 3.96, a sub 4 short shuttle, which is fantastic. I mean, these guys love the short shuttle numbers. You look at Duke Snyder's like that, or sorry, Duke Johnson, whatever our new guy's name is. He's kind of like that too. So. But anyways, the point is, I don't think we're necessarily looking for cornerback, outside cornerback, slot cornerback, free safety, safety. I think we're just looking for a mix, guys that can do multiple things. And so to say Nate Hobbs is going to play in the slot, I don't think is quite realistic. You saw it last year. You know, they try to make him outside because they're trying to see if he can do both, and that's really the gist of it. So even Mooring, I mean, there's no guarantee he even makes the team. And I think even guys like Renfro, I think Renfro won't be on this team going forward. You know, the DeAndre Hopkins talk is phenomenal. It'd be awesome to get him. I don't know if it'll happen, but you know, the money that Renfro you can free up would be huge to be able to finally spend it on the defense if we wanted to. And, you know, things like that. And, you know, on the other side of the ball, obviously we signed Parker, but, you know, Teamer is really a special teams guy. And so if you think of Teamer as a safety and you just brought in Epps, you brought in Johnson, and we draft 1 or 2, you know, you start looking at Powell Mal, he's 6'4", right? So he's on the roster already, but maybe we bring in competition for him. And I think you all know Jason Taylor's not quite that tall, but he plays bigger. He can play dime linebacker at Oklahoma State. He's one of my must-have guys. I want him on the team. He's badass. Patrick McMorris out of San Diego State's really good too. He could fill that role for us as well. So there's some kind of target numbers, and then Divine Diablo, there's no guarantee he's on the field. I mean, we just signed Spillane for a longer-term contract with some good money invested in him. And then the 2 guys that they brought in, Masterson and Butler last year, so there's no guarantees there. And then on the line, I'm not so sure I mean, if I was going into the draft to predict our interior defensive line, I would say we need another nose tackle, because John Jenkins, yeah, he's older. I think he might be a camp body, but, you know, Neil Farrell Jr., you know, you look at guys like Jerry Tillery and Adam Butler. Adam Butler's being slept on. Both these guys are more 3-tech, like 3-4 3-techs, I believe, because they're kind of in that 295-ish range, a little bit more athletic. But Adam Butler has 17 career sacks, and Bill Belichick, if you read about him, loved him. You know, so I think there's some good things there for him. Bilal Nichols and Matthew Butler, who we drafted last year, those guys are 3-4 defensive ends, so they're the 300-pound sort of athletic defensive end types. And so Patrick Graham wants interior guys because we have nose tackles, right? So he wants guys to be able to play like a D tackle, a 3-4 D tackle, like in that 295 range. So if you're doing your draft plan, that's kind of how I look at it. A 3-4 defensive end. The reason why we can't do a 3-4 base is because Crosby and Chandler Jones are 4-3 defensive ends. even though Crosby plays the 5-eye, Chandler Jones can no longer be an outside linebacker. I mean, he's a 4-3 defensive end now because of his age. So maybe we draft like that for the future. That'll be interesting, but that's kind of the way I break it down. So there's 6 interior defensive linemen I think they feel really good about, but I think if I'm projecting the draft, I'm looking at nose tackle. Now, do we take nose tackle early like Malzie Smith or Sharaki Inca out of Baylor? Those guys are going first or second round, and so I don't know. I like Project Martin out of Western Kentucky is a guy I really like. But there's a guy out of Coastal Carolina that's really good as well. He had a good Senior Bowl and things like that. So, but I'll get into some more draft content when we get a little closer, when the roster shapes up a little bit more. But that's just sort of what I'm seeing. I think the guys that were from the other regime are going to have a tough time making the 53-man roster. I think if you look at quarterback, I think Witherspoon is, I know I'd take Gonzalez or Witherspoon. I think they're both going to be I know there's 3 cornerbacks on the all-rookie team, but I think those are 2 of them right there. I think just the feistiness, the undersized, kind of the way he plays, the tough man defense, the way he was brought up in special teams, I think Witherspoon is the guy. I would love to get Tyree Wilson. I think I did a video on that, Tyree Wilson versus Devin Witherspoon. Who to take? I think for me, I would take Wilson because he's the pass rusher and he's going to be, the heir apparent to Chandler Jones, so we can move on if we need to. But I know we need to sack the quarterback, but that's a tough call, Witherspoon or Tyree Wilson. But I think it comes down to those 2 and Gonzalez as well. I've been seeing a lot of reports that Gonzalez might be going 3rd to Arizona, so we'll see how that plays out. The reports right now are we're still, a month away from the draft, or maybe a little bit more than a month away. So we'll see. But anyways, let me know, Raider Nation, what you guys think of the free agency and the Raiders roster so far, and maybe some targets you guys have out there. But yeah, please like, share, subscribe to the video. And again, this is Raider Sparks. We'll see you next time.